we're going to do an overview of brake slack adjusters, how they work, how to install them, and how to adjust them. We'll start going through the different types of slack adjusters and then the installation processes and how to make sure that they are set up correctly so that they will adjust correctly and work properly. Then we'll go out to a few units and look at how you actually adjust them on the units themselves. Start off with, we've got a manual slack adjuster, which is set up when you install it. You basically want it to be at a 90-degree angle when the brakes are applied. The 90-degree angle with the push rod will give you the maximum brake clamping force. Automatic slack adjuster, there are two different main types that we use. First, we'll cover the Meritor or Bendix style. That has a small push rod plunger on it. Basically, when you apply the brakes, the slack adjuster will move, causing the push rod plunger to move. And as that moves back and forth, that goes against a clutch inside the slack adjuster, which will move the S-cam as it's needed. It will not move it any farther than it's possible to because of the clutching area. When you install the Meritor Bendix style, it comes with an instruction kit with index cards in the box with it. You want to make sure that with the brakes released, when you set slack adjuster on, you've got one pin that will go in the center of your S-cam, and then the other two pins will line up with your pins on your clevis. If they are out of adjustment like that, the push rod length on the brake chamber needs to be shortened or lengthened to get the pins in place so that they line up. If they do not line up to where the index card is in place, it will not stay adjusted or adjust correctly. Haldex automatic slack adjuster has an anchor point, so when you install that, you want the brakes released, the anchor point locked down with the indicator in the notched area. If you have it anchored down and the indicator is not in the notched area with the brakes released, it will not adjust correctly. So you've got to make sure it is locked in place and bolted down. They do come with mounting so that is adjustable so that you can get that anchor in the correct position. There's also instructions inside the box when you get them. Adjusting automatic slack adjusters with the Bendix or Meritor brakes, first thing we want to do, since we think these brakes are out of adjustment, is we want to take an index card, which came with the brake or slack adjusters. We want to set it on there to be sure that it is indexed correctly, to be sure it's going to stay adjusted when we get it adjusted. The card goes on one way or the other. This one goes on this way, goes over both pins, and then the hole is centered in the center of the S-cam, so we know that we are indexed correctly. Now we're going to check the brake stroke and see where we're at for brake stroke. Right here with the brakes released, we're at 6 inches and 9/16 of an inch. We should have no more than 2 inches of application stroke. Apply the brakes. We're all the way up to 9.5 inches, so we're out of adjustment. Okay, let go. We're going to adjust the brakes and get them back in spec. To adjust these, you take a 5/16 wrench and a screwdriver. Basically take and tighten it up as hard as you can. Once you've got it gone, or as tight as it will go, you take and release the lock lever with the screwdriver. Just put the screwdriver behind it, lift up, and then you want to back the slack adjuster off 1/2 turn, and the brake is adjusted. So now we will double check our stroke and be sure our stroke is correct. And we're back to the same measurement we were before. Apply the brakes. And we're just over 1.5 inches of travel, which is perfect. All right, release. And that is how you adjust the Meritor Bendix style automatic slack adjusters. Adjusting a Haldex slack adjuster, first thing you want to do before you adjust it is to make sure with it released you have the indicator pointed into the gap here, and that's anchored tightly. You want to make sure the anchor is tight and does not move, so that will hold this anchor here so that the clutching mechanism in the slack will work as the slack is activated and inactivated. To adjust it, you basically take a 7/16 ratchet or wrench, tighten it until as tight as you can go, and then you take and back up. When you bring it back to release it, you'll have that clutching sound that you heard. It is hard to pull, but that is acting against that clutch. The more times you adjust a Haldex and physically pull against that clutch, the harder you are on it, the sooner it will quit working, quit adjusting correctly. After you have it adjusted up, you can check the application using air, or we're going to use a pry bar. We want to see how far the chamber moves. We're at 2 3/4 inches. With it applied, we're at 3 3/4, which with a smaller slack or smaller brake chamber, we don't get quite to 2 inches. You get 1.5 inches. We're at 1 inch, which is correct. So that is how you adjust the Haldex style. Adjusting a manual slack adjuster, we're gonna, with a manual, there is no extra plunger or anything to keep it adjusted. So a manual slack adjuster will need the stroke checked and adjusted. When you go to check the stroke, you want 2 inches of stroke. To adjust it, there's a collar you push in, and then you're going to tighten the brake all the way to the drum. And once you have the brake tightened to the drum, then you're going to want to back it off a 1/2 turn. And then you're going to want to check the travel of it, which should be up to 2 inches. When it is applied, you want the push rod and the chamber to be at a 90-degree angle. That will give you your most clamping force. That is a manual slack adjuster.